Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about site reliability engineers and DevOps engineers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, is there any difference between a DevOps engineer and a site reliability engineer? What is your opinion about it? So this is where I have a personal value where I believe that the more ambiguous a role description becomes, the more senior one has to be in order to fulfill the role and do it well. The reason why I state that is because there are certain areas of any topic, doesn't really matter what it is, that are so cross-cutting across multiple areas within a field that it's impossible for you to do that job without having fairly extensive experience in a lot of areas. An example, my favorite example, is security. If you're going to be a pen tester, certainly you need to niche yourself in a certain way and like in certain areas and so forth. But anybody who works in IT security will be able to tell you that security is big. Like the surface area of what you would potentially need to know in order to test all the factors that make up a secure IT system it's enormous. Like it's literally enormous. And it's a similar sort of thing being an architect. Of course, it always depends on at what level are you working, but then there are roles that are much more cookie cutter, things that are much more niched on a specific task. I take a trivial example as if you're going to work at McDonald's. Well, then the range of things you need to know in order to do that job effectively is very small in comparison to if you wanted to be, I don't know, an administrator of McDonald's or something like that. There are different roles. And for me, a DevOps engineer and a site reliability engineer, the difference between these two roles really only comes down to, we can of course discuss about like mental tooling, perspectives, and all this fluff that the middle managers usually like to talk about. The only difference in essence between a DevOps engineer and a site reliability engineer is in the focus area of the person who's doing the job. The skills are practically the same. Because I ask people this all the time, it's the same thing with being a QA. It's in my personal opinion, honestly, I think that IT is trying to find a sustainable way to bridge the fact that they need master level engineers and they don't have enough to go around, so they invent different subgroups of engineers, where, as an example, if you I will tell you right now, the best person to deal with everything that is related to DevOps, everything related to site reliability engineering, everything related to QA and automation and things like that, is a senior software developer. A real senior, like someone who actually has the skills to do all this stuff, because this is the beautiful thing. None of these roles that I've just described can in of themselves run the entire system, but a senior software developer can do all of it. Literally all of it. It's just that we don't have enough of those people to go around, and at the same time we need them to build this is where it gets so funny. We need them to build the applications that all these other people are supposed to help like stabilize and so forth and so forth. And in my personal experience, the only thing that happens is that you get more problems by adding more roles and more people like this. So to me, site reliability engineering is it's a term that they invent. It's a role that has been invented because we simply cannot figure out this one thing that I truly believe is the thing that should be happening. But that's a different story maybe. Well, I can chime in a few minutes about what I think is the solution here. But get back on topic, the roles are just a matter of focus area. A DevOps engineer and a site reliability engineer needs literally the same skills. Because if you're going to focus on the reliability of a system, you're going to have to touch the application code. You're going to have to, depending on how you define it, because that's the fluff part, right? How do you know what is site reliability engineering? Nobody's going to be able to define it for you, and the only people who are trying to do it is, as I said, like the companies who are basically inventing the term, like Google and the FAANG companies and so forth. The reason why they invent these terms is because it's not just something. I mean, it's something that they create in order to bridge a bigger problem, but the skill is still the same. Application level development is where that's it's the same thing for the damn QA. So what's the difference between a QA and a site reliability engineer? There is none, depending on how you define it. It's the same thing. It's such a fluff term that it's almost ridiculous to me. The concrete skills that we want to talk about, to me it's really just a labeling system. Site reliability, the difference between a site reliability engineer and a QA is just it's a culture thing. QAs have primarily been people who went into, like, they used to be just testers, quote unquote. Now they evolve because the IT is evolving, and therefore their responsibilities also evolve, and now they need to have automation skills and like end-to-end testing skills and BDD and like all of this other extra stuff that comes into the QA work. And then, in my opinion, site reliability engineering is just the next iteration of the QA. It's just the next step, because now you need to have all that stuff to be an effective site reliability engineer, but you also need to know about SLOs, SLIs, setting up metrics, setting up telemetry systems and things like that, know about more advanced deployment techniques and CIs and CD pipelines and so forth, rollbacks, and the tooling around how to do that effectively, because what is site reliability if it's not quality assurance? The difference is it's very, in my opinion, very subjective, very much up for discussion. But I promise you, if you go and Google it, there's going to be a billion articles trying to define what a site reliability engineer is, and I promise you, each and every one of them is going to be as ambiguous as the thing that I've just described to you. It's everything. It's everything from infrastructure all the way down to application level development, because that is in essence, I mean, it's like trying to define quality. It's a silly notion that nobody can do to the satisfaction of everybody who has a stake in the quality of the system. So every company's that's what they usually do. It's the same thing with DevOps engineer. There is, like, what's the difference between a DevOps engineer and an ops person? Well, the difference is whatever your company that you start working at feels is the difference. So what I want you to take away from this is that there is practically no difference in terms of hard skills between a DevOps engineer and a site reliability engineer. In essence, it's an individual who will need to have like a fairly good level of understanding of if you're going to be good at the job. So that's up for discussion as well, if you want to be good at it or not. If you want to be good at it, you're going to have to be an application developer and an ops person, basically a DevOps engineer. And then you will have to have knowledge of tooling and practices that are necessary in order to raise the reliability of your site. And in my opinion, this is just another iteration on the QA. It's like for me, site reliability engineers are just basically if ops and DevOps is like, if DevOps is the next iteration where you basically take a developer and make them an ops person, site reliability engineering is you taking a developer and making them a QA. But we have a term for that, which is automation testers. So the people who are trying to sell this new title, they had to find some other name for it. And the thing that I truly believe that is happening now is that we're basically trying to figure out a way to avoid in my opinion, the big elephant in the room. And the big elephant in the room is that the complexity of IT has now grown to a point where these higher level responsibilities, which basically is holistic understanding of the health of the entire system, we are trying to find a role so that we can scale this. And what's actually happening is that we're just creating semi-competent people in pockets of a company who are together not going to be able to collaborate because they're all saying too many chefs. You have too many people trying to manage everything. What should happen, if you ask me, is that you should refine your recruitment and hiring process and promotion process within the company. You should, as a company, focus on finding truly extraordinary software developers and invest in their future within your company and build up a strategy for how to create truly senior software developers. These are software developers who might start out as a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer or something like that, but their goal, the goal of their entire education and everything you're doing for them, is to build them up to a point where they literally have all the skills to run the entire company if need be. They are able to be a DevOps engineer or a site reliability engineer. You're not hiring them as a short-term investment to just fulfill the role of a front-end engineer. You are trying to make them into a higher level person, an architect, or someone who is actually hands-on involved in multiple areas of the system, because no one is going to be more effective at everything from DevOps and site reliability engineering and all of this stuff than the person who's been part of building the system, because domain knowledge also factors in a lot when you are doing things like DevOps and site reliability engineering and architecture and all that stuff. So that's at least what I think it should be happening. Hope you have a great day.